speaking to me, Don, I'm sorry.
I
I
am.
was
Go
trying
ahead.
to connect my video and my audio.
You did great.
No,
I'd
it's
asked
okay.
you.
It's okay. Okay. I am the chair of the St. Augustine's in the Woods Episcopal Church's animal ministry, and we've been around, oh gosh, 15, 20 years. You may know us from our Blessing of the Animals that we do around St. Francis Day. And we're have our fingers in many things. No, uh, we do. We haven't done any advocacy lately, but we were one of the ones that when there was a problem a long time ago with WAIF, and they were going to anesthetize, or I'm sorry, euthanize a pit bull. That we spoke out against that. So that's actually the last time we've done any major um, animal, in the community, not political, but anyway, whatever you want to call that. Um, and then we do all sorts of other things. We give money to support parishioners who have veterinary problems and can't afford that. We also gather food for WAIF and for I can't speak anymore. Oasis. There we go, Oasis,
Oasis,
and
you
many other
help.
things.
Oh, you
Anyway,
help Oasis too. We were just talking about them. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
we most of the like
We
the
were
dog.
talking.
Excuse me. What most of the dog food goes to WAIF, and then the cat food, and then usually we collect some money and cat food and dog food actually for Oasis and WAIF at our Blessing of the Animals event. Lots of other things. I don't want to talk forever because I know
No,
these
that's
events are done.
fantastic. Thank you. I feel like uh I feel like we really been missing out on everything that people are doing, and now honestly, people are stepping up and they are recounting some of what they are doing, and that really shows how wonderful we are here in supporting one another. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 7:04, and all I have is 40 minutes because I don't have the Zoom
Right, right,
Pro. So
right.
yeah, so okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to get through these slides theoretically. Okay, here we go. And so I'm Donna DeBonis. I'm a forensic veterinarian now, and that is pretty
Yay.
much my biggest accomplishment in the past couple of years of my life. So I'm very excited about that. Guess what? You're never too old.
No, no,
So
never old, never too old to make a difference. Yeah.
you bet. So Island County in Washington State is actually composed of two islands. And let's take a look at that for a moment. We all know because we live here, but this is a recording, so I'm going to possibly share that with other people who may not. We cover 200 square miles. There are 85,657 residents, about 23,000 dogs, 800 to 900 horses, and around 10,000 cattle. I did not know
Wow.
about the cattle. And that was just
Yeah,
some
that's
quick
good.
numbers that I could get up. And I think that's mind-boggling when we take a look and really sit with that for a moment to realize the number of animals that we have on this island and people, and the fact that we cannot get from one island to the other very easily. So this is the case that kind of brought things to our attention. We started Animal Advocates of Island County in January of 2023. And what happened was in December 24th in 2022, a person uploaded a picture to the Whidbey Island Equestrian Network group, and this picture just immediately went viral. There were hundreds of people who commented. I think at one time I saw 300 comments. There were people who said they were attaching their horse trailers, grabbing their wire cutters, and they were going to drive over there. They knew where she lived, and this person is Christy Finch on Hasty Lake Road. There were 3 dead horses. You could see 2 in this picture. There was an additional baby horse called it was a yearling. And then there were at least 1 dead pig. I believe there was 1 skeletal pig. And there was numerous poultry. Out of the horses, there were approximately 15 emaciated ones that were seen on the property that day. And as I said, people started driving over there. And at that time, Island County Sheriff's Department was called because we had no what? Animal control officer. Say that with me. Carol Barnes had retired. She was kind of doing a little bit of consulting work. Mainly the deputies were supposed to be doing things, and they were relying on her maybe to explain some stuff. But we had really no actual animal control officer going around and to people's homes and talking to people at all for a few years. And it was just the deputies. And they were aware of this situation. I know for a fact there were people that were sending pictures and videos to the Island County Sheriff's Department for the previous year or two that this occasion happened. And so there was plenty of information that was being sent over to the Island County Sheriff's Department, and they just ignored it until they had to do something when a bunch of citizens said they were going to do something. So on December 24th, the people who had horse trailers went up and they did what sort of fostered the horses. It was never made clear at that time what was happening with those horses legally. Christy Finch was basically directing certain horses were going to her friends, theoretically. And luckily, Dr. Kidder, who is a mobile veterinarian as well as having their heritage stationary practice on North Oak Harbor, was there with Jenny Roberts, right? And they were able to document, they documented where each horse went, with whom, what the name of the horse was. And I believe they took 1 picture of the horse. Jenny told me that they would put the information about the horse on a card and hold it up with the horse and take a picture. So veterinarian and veterinary assistant did the legal evidence collection that they really were not that aware of how to do, other than Jenny, because she had worked at a humane society and was aware of how to do some documentation. So she was able to take lead, and she's a vet assistant. The Sheriff's Department did not act in any capacity where they were collecting evidence, living evidence on these animals. They were made aware while they were there that there were dogs and cats on the property as well. But because there was no search warrant, they had to go ahead and put in a probable cause and get that search warrant, which they were able to get done on December 26th. As you can see, this happened right around Christmas. But people were very engaged every bit of the way on this, regardless of the fact that it was during holidays. Small animals were found, around 30 dogs, mini Aussies. There was a Dalmatian, I think another couple of breeds, single dogs as well. The cats were mostly rag dolls, and she was doing breeding on these, a puppy mill, a kitten mill, and so she had these chinchillas and rabbits and a bunch of poultry. So they were everything was there. They were all running around, and basically everything was collected that day. But in that case, they were not collected with placards and pictures, to my understanding. And I believe WAIF was there to help with cages and collect the animals, because they were taking the small animals to their facility since they have the contract to do that. Now, things to notice about the dogs: they were emaciated. matted. Mouths were zip tied shut on some of them. Those that did not have zip ties on actually had scars on them to show that they had been zip tied at one point. I've seen a picture of a dog that had a severed tongue. That was one of the dogs from Finch. And I don't have that picture, but I actually don't want to see that picture. And because the dog's tongue got caught out of its mouth, I think it was possibly trying to drink water, and it was zip tied shut. So clearly, at that point, it it was it severed off by the dog by its swelling. Parasites were in the animals. There was a dead cat present at the site that they had to walk around. So it was a terribly disturbing thing for people to see and to experience, particularly if they're not trained in collecting living evidence. Just one second. Let me admit Staten is joining us. Okay, and so that the Finch case was supposedly going to be set up with fosters as far as the horses. Again, the idea was that the horses were with fosters because we do not have anything to take horses in Island County. There's no system, there's no sanctuary. And this was an approved post I was told I could make. And I said, Chair Felici is also planning a meeting sometime soon with all the foster parents about their rights, responsibilities, options, and possible restitution. And so that never happened. That meeting never happened, and the deputies never returned phone calls. There was case number assigned, but nobody talked to any of the people who had the horses. So the case took place, it continued with court probably about 20 times over the course of about 2 years. During that time, her house was red tagged by Island County Public Health. All the animals were forfeited July 2023. That was a big giant mess because people were not certain. And again, we didn't have an animal control officer. The law was not necessarily clear. Animal law is very unusual and it's very specific. It's not something that is taught routinely. It's like its own niche. So it was very difficult to understand how to go forward and seize the animals and make sure they're forfeited right away. That has now the system for doing that has been made clear thanks to Passato Sanctuary. They sent out their lawyer and their humane investigator, and they did a seminar on that. So we are well trained in what the process is now. She received 6 months. Chris Finch received 6 months in Island County Jail, and that was starting September of 2024 up to the beginning of 2025. She was put on 2 years probation, no animal contact. She had to pay restitution to WAIF, certainly, and I believe their bill was around $85,000. The veterinarian involved was, of course, Dr. Kidder. Her bill was several thousand. A couple different sanctuaries stepped in and helped with some bills, and that was Passato and I believe Sane. And everybody tried to chip in and help from these different sanctuaries, so we have to give them a lot of credit. But that's not fair, of course, that we don't have things in place to handle things correctly. So 2 years probation meant that if she didn't fulfill the parameters of her being allowed out of jail, which was to not have animals, to pay $500 a month towards all of these charges, that means she would get picked up and go to jail again. But she left the state, went to Mississippi, and now there is a bench warrant on her as of this year. Keep in mind and note, she does use aliases. Chris Finch goes by Christy Thomas Finch, Chris Thomas, Chris Finch. Any manifestation of those names are names that she uses. And that is a picture of her, and she likes to dye her hair purple. So pretty easy to find. She does have a felony conviction, and that means that she is registered with the FBI, and and that is a nationwide registry that just started in 2017. That the FBI said we are going to include animal crimes that are felony level in our national database. And we're going to do that because we know that animal crime is linked to other crimes and especially domestic violence, but certainly felony level crimes. So please keep that in mind. If the FBI takes this seriously, we should be taking it seriously too. So during this whole time, and by the way, I'll do questions at the end. During this whole time, we were getting, Animal Advocates was getting different kinds of emails and phone calls, i.e. me, about other animals that were in distress, and we didn't quite have our animal control officers hired. They were, and then they had to go to animal control officer school down by Seattle for 2 weeks. So it took a while for them to get up to speed, and that was all in 2023. So the Wilson Road horses were pretty much, I think, the first case that Tammy had to deal with when she got back from her training. And she was able to get the horses evaluated successfully by Dr. Kidder again, I believe, and get the owner to do the prescribed refeeding program to some degree. But one of the things that was really troublesome was that the woman would not give the horses, would not use the gigantic stock tank of water for watering the horses. She said that she would forget to turn the hose off and it would just flood everything. So instead, she would take pails of water and put them under the blackberry bushes out of the sun so they were in shade. And that's how the horses were getting water. Eventually, some people were able to convince her to give up 4 of those horses to foster. So those people were able to save those horses' lives. Eventually, she she got back a couple. She was able to keep a couple. It's all very nebulous. But the bottom line is that we truly do not have any way that we are successfully dealing with horses, and they are one of the most complained about situations that we see in Island County, in that they are starving. So now I'm going to talk about something that you might have heard rumors about, and that is the dogfighting ring. There absolutely was a dogfighting ring here in 2024. The person who was running the ring left all the dogs chained with those big giant chains. You could see they're the real heavy chains, and he left them tied to trees, chained to trees, I should say. And I believe there were 6 or 7 dogs. The barrels, you see how these barrels are cut off at the top and laid on their side. Those are two signs that is a dog fighting ring. That is what the owners do with their fighting dogs. It's a thing. You put that heavy chain on them, it goes around their neck, they get their muscles built up around their neck, and that is by carrying that heavy weight. And then the barrels laid on their side are cheap kennels. And that just goes to that shows you that no one would put a good kennel up in a dog fighting as dog owners that fight, because then they would look like they're wimps. So this is part of their cachet, I guess I could say. So all these pictures were sent to me when the dogs were picked up, and it was not anyone you know, and it certainly was not WAIF. They do not. They keep things very quiet. These are some of the dogs were in kennels, and as you can see, they just had some sawdust thrown down on the ground, and they had their water and food bowls. And you can see what the water looks like on the right-hand picture. There's straw thrown in their barrel, and that's how they lived when they were put in cages like that. There's a close-up of the chain chained around the tree. It's a very heavy chain. On the right, you'll see a treadmill, and this is a homemade treadmill. And again, this is a sign that this is absolutely a dog fighting ring. And it was made, it's a handmade treadmill that's used for training the dogs. You put them on there, you put a cat in front of them so that they chase the cat and they run on the treadmill. That's how they get it to move. So that is what you're looking at there. All of that evidence was thrown away. The deputies did not collect it. And I'm going to say that that the importance of collecting it would have been to be able to get that information over to the Washington State Animal Fighting Association, who are on the forefront of shutting down these rings. And these things could have been swabbed for DNA evidence, and there is a dog CODIS for dog fighting. The dogs are swabbed. They're sent to California UC Davis, and the dog and that's where the DNA is kept, and they match them up, and they can show where all of the dogs come from and who they're going to. So the FBI is very engaged with this, as you know, from the news. And so that is important evidence that would have been uploaded to the dog CODIS that was just thrown away. So the 2025 killed and missing dogs. We had 2 dogs that were killed and 2 dogs that were missing up by Deguala Bay. We know they were killed. I was involved with the necropsy on the 2 dogs that were submitted for necropsy because they were found. I'm going to play the video. It's very short, and hopefully it's going to work.
How's the dogs? Her adventure buddies.
I really took them like everywhere with us. It's very.
Dennis dogs.
I think we're losing the sound on the video.
Yeah.
Those 2 dogs were never found. The other dogs were absolutely killed. The violence that was done on them was incredible. And we know for a fact that they had raided somebody's poultry. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That's an open case still. But we do have somebody who's incredibly violent over there. And if there's anybody getting hurt in that area, as far as humans, then I suspect it could very well be the same person who hurt those dogs. This is our most recent case. I'm telling you all about the felonies that I know about. This one is the Rokita case that everybody saw that came up out of the newspaper, and this case was also, the kittens were also necropsied. The information was posted in the newspaper, so I am adding it here. It is allowed to be posted. This case is ongoing. The veterinarian who conducted the examination is a board certified pathologist, and that is absolutely her forte. She is excellent at doing these. I am a forensic veterinarian, and my forte is living animals. I collect living evidence. I can do the necropsies, but if you have somebody like her to do it, it's definitely the best there is. So it goes on to say in this situation that the kitten's abdominal cavity had frank blood in it. There were fractures and lacerations to the liver. That means it was beaten so hard the liver split. Hemorrhages were on the heart, spleen, and kidneys, lungs, brain, all indicators of blunt force trauma. So these kittens belong to Rakita's live-in girlfriend. He is in the military. I believe she is as well. And from social media, before their social media was taken down, it looks like she had 2 small children, but I don't know if they're still with her. So that said, that's all I'm going to speak about that one. But as you can see, this is certainly a situation where we have violence that's happening even now that are very serious. I will say that we're very lucky that Dr. Searing over at Best Friends took a hand in this and made sure that it was suggested to do these necropsies, and she did call animal control. So she did a fantastic job. In Washington State, it is mandatory for veterinarians to report child abuse, and and they are protected if they report animal abuse. Now, let me explain real quickly what that means. It simply means that they will not be able to. We cannot, as veterinarians, be getting in trouble for giving out personal information of the pet owners. In 2026, we have the Painted K Ranch situation. Faith Tissel posted to Oak Harbor community page, said she got these poultry, these little baby chicks, and paid $300 in advance, went there and found a gigantic mess when she arrived. She was pretty shocked. She's very young, 23, 24 years old. And so she knew she'd given that money. She wasn't going to fight for it. At that point, it became a matter of getting those chickens and different kind of, I believe she got some peacocks, and getting them and saving them, which is what many people do when they see situations like this. They can't be faulted for giving money to the person. They look at it as saving these animals. She found and noted there were 9 horses outside, about 10 Catahoula hounds on chains, dozens of cats milling around, dead rat. She said there were flies just everywhere. The stink was horrible. She went inside the house, saw children, puppies and adults stuffed in cages, puppies and adult dogs, not adult people, stuffed in cages, feces, urine, fleas on the animals. The children smelled. She went in there because the lady was going to give her the chicks. So she handed her the chicks, and then she says, oh, I got to get the other ones from the outside shed. So then she took Faith to the outside shed, and there she found the chicks had zip ties on their legs that were so tight, their little legs were actually swollen and infected and crooked because the zip ties, they were put on tight. They were used to identify as far as breed. Color was the breed of the chick. Just to tell you that this is a real situation, she posted it in PNW Poultry, which is Facebook group, and a bunch of people gave their stories about how they dealt with Heather Klein and had the same thing happen. So that brings me to the importance of the petition, and I am posting updates on the petition. We need to have a second animal control officer. We do have crime that is very serious crime in Island County, and I want to encourage everyone to share this information. I will be posting the video on our Animal Advocates of Island County Substack, which is our new newsletter, and we can post videos on that. So that is everything. And please donate if you can so that I could have more than 40 minutes to pay for professional Zoom. All right, you might have about 2 minutes for any questions before I have to, it's going to blank us out here. Go. Anyone? Or
Well, I have more of a comment. I think it's important to note that in addition to these animal crimes, there's a lot of work behind the scenes that our ACO Tammy does to talk with people. And she's had to seize a number of dogs, at least that I'm aware of, and take them to WAIF. I'm sure other shelters can have similar stories, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. And the code is written to address that on site before it becomes critical. Unfortunately, the county, specifically the sheriff, is not enforcing that portion of the code right now. And that doesn't mean that Tammy's not busy, and I'm sure that there's plenty of work for a second ACO if he's deployed and utilized correctly, because Tammy is probably doing the work of at least 3 people.
Wow.
Mhm. Right. And we're not quite sure what's going on in Oak Harbor. I heard a rumor that ACO Greg Woodward might have retired. He's the City of Oak Harbor Animal Control Officer. He only works part-time as an animal control officer anyway. So clearly the bulk of everything is on one person, and
Right.
and so that's what you're looking at. I wanted to say that on our Animal Advocates webpage, you can subscribe to our newsletter. And if you haven't, please do, because that's where I will be putting out the bulk of announcements, since I do understand that many people are not necessarily on Facebook. So we have almost 5 minutes remaining. And I did have somebody remark today that they didn't believe necessarily that the money from kennel fees would be that much to support animal control. My comment was, it's not necessarily about the money to support animal control. It is about having the law in place so that animal control officers can get onto these properties. And I want to support what Christy said right there. The information she just gave is actually very critical. Do you have a comment?
Well, I would also add that it's a lot less expensive to have an animal control officer work with a person at their property to get the people on track with the humane treatment of their animals. But by the time it gets so critical that the animals have to be seized, the animal has to be on death's door, literally, before Tammy can go in and seize the animals. It's a very fine line. And when they do that, usually those animals are in such bad straits that the vet care, the feeding, and getting them back to a point where they can accept, they can go into the adoption stream, takes a lot of time and money. And the only people paying for that end of the deal are the shelters. They're not getting reimbursed at they're not getting reimbursed for their full cost. WAIF is still out $88,000 from the Finch debacle.
Right.
And probably a heck of a lot more.
Right. And then we heard today about what Valadidian, and there's their website, as well as Critters has been doing. They've been stepping up, and apparently, unknown to all of us, they were acting as a place where animals were brought to them, because we don't have anything that handles farm animals. And
Right.
yeah, so Oasis, she remarked that she is dealing with cats and going in and trapping cats and getting them off the streets and getting them into the adoption stream as well. So we have 4 sanctuaries who are doing all of this work without, where are they getting money? It's it's not sustainable, as they said, and it looked like
Exactly.
Valadidian and Critters were very adamant about that at this point, because that's how long it's been going on.
And Christy, could you talk a little bit about the codes and how these breeders that keep breeding are not even paying for licenses. Because
Well-
we worked really hard on that, and that's been 3 years, and it seems like there's an access to money there that's just being wasted.
Well, there within the new kennel code, which I'm going to say is probably the best in the state after looking at each and every kennel code in
Yep.
each and every county in Washington state.
Sure.
It includes a kennel licensing component that at the time the code was adopted 3 years ago, Rick Felici assured us and the commissioners that he was on the verge of getting the the financial intake system worked out. That was 3 years ago. Last November, he realized it never happened. And he went back to the commissioners. Everybody had forgotten about what was adopted back 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're still churning through that because they were confused. I think they're back on track, but the only thing that was keeping it from moving forward was the commissioners actually setting the amount of the code. I'm sorry, amount of the kennel
The
licensing
fees.
fee.
Right,
fee.
the fees
Yeah.
they couldn't agree on. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't they couldn't agree on. They totally
Didn't even
forgot why it was there.
Oh,
Yeah, they didn't even understand. It just got left. And when
Right.
when
And the
Felici
staff
called me,
report
yeah,
was so poorly written that it was totally confusing, and Felici didn't remember, the commissioners didn't remember last November, and it was like the blind leading the blind. I think the commissioners are back on track and realize, oh yeah, that was in the code that we adopted 3 years ago, but still between November and now, they still haven't adopted a fee. And I don't think it's for lack of not wanting